He leaned back in his chair, looked straight at me, and sneered. "You'll never know what it feels like to be a real mom." I felt the words land like glass in my chest. When I finally found my voice and called him out, my husband didn't defend me. He smirked and said, "You deserve it." That night, I packed my things quietly. Neither of them realized they had just lost far more than they imagined. I never carried a child in my body, but I carried one in every other way that mattered. When I married my husband, he already had a son, 7 years old, guarded, sharp-eyed, and hurting in ways children rarely explain. His biological mother had disappeared early, leaving behind confusion and anger disguised as independence. I didn't come into that home trying to replace anyone. I came with patience. I learned his routines. I sat through school meetings. I stayed up during fevers. I memorized the way he liked his food and the sound he made when he pretended not to care but secretly did. For years, I defended him even when he pushed me away. I told myself love didn't need biology. I believed effort would be enough. Things changed slowly, so slowly I almost blamed myself for noticing. My husband stopped correcting his son when he spoke to me sharply. Small jokes turned into cutting remarks. Sarcasm replaced gratitude. Whenever I tried to address it, my husband waved it away. "He's just being honest. He's a teenager. You're too sensitive." Over time, the house stopped feeling like a shared space. It felt like I was a guest who had overstayed her welcome. Still, I stayed. Because that's what mothers do, real or not. It happened during dinner. Something trivial. Chores, responsibilities, tone. I asked him to speak respectfully. Nothing dramatic. That's when he laughed. Not nervous laughter. Not awkward laughter. Cruel laughter. And then he said it. "You'll never know what it feels like to be a real mom." The table went silent. I felt something in me fracture, not loudly, not violently, but completely. I looked at my husband, waiting for him to step in. He didn't. He smiled and said, "You deserve it." That was the moment I realized I wasn't just unloved. I was unwanted. I didn't argue. I didn't cry in front of them. I cleared the table, washed the dishes, and said goodnight like everything was normal. Then I went upstairs and packed only what I needed. No dramatic exit. No shouting. No warnings. I left behind the roles I had been playing and took something far more valuable with me: clarity. They slept peacefully that night. I didn't. What they didn't know is this. The house was partly in my name. The finances were meticulously documented. The emotional labor I provided had legal weight. They thought motherhood was something you could dismiss. They forgot partnership was something you had to protect. I didn't plan revenge in anger. I planned it in silence. I stayed with a friend. I didn't contact them. Instead, I contacted a lawyer. I brought records, years of proof. Contributions. Messages. Patterns. The lawyer listened carefully and said, "You didn't just act like a mother. You acted like the backbone of this household." For the first time in years, someone acknowledged what I had given and what had been taken from me. For weeks, they said nothing. No apology. No concern. No attempt to fix anything. They thought I'd come back. They thought silence meant defeat. That belief became their greatest mistake. The call came on a Tuesday. My husband sounded irritated, not worried. "Are you done with this?" he asked. "He's upset. You made things awkward." I told him I'd come by the house the next evening. They expected tears. I brought documents. I sat at the table where I had once been dismissed and placed the folder down calmly. Divorce papers. Financial separation. Custodial boundaries. My husband stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. My adopted son laughed until he realized what was happening. That laughter collapsed into panic. "What is this?" my husband demanded. This, I said, is what happens when you confuse cruelty with honesty. My adopted son exploded. He shouted that I was abandoning him, that I was never his real mother anyway, that I was selfish. And in his rage, he admitted something he never meant to say out loud. He said he wanted me gone, that he had been trying to push me out, that he knew his father would let him. The room went silent. My husband finally understood. Too late. I didn't yell. I stood up, calm and steady, and said, "You don't get to decide what kind of mother I was after benefiting from everything I gave." Then I walked out. The house felt lighter behind me. Revenge wasn't about punishing a child. It was about refusing to be erased. I left them with consequences, not chaos. Truth, not theatrics. Finality, not forgiveness forced too late. Some people think motherhood begins in the womb. I know it begins in sacrifice. And, sometimes, the bravest thing a mother can do is leave. The end.